What's up, everyone? Aaron Nagler here with Cheesehead TV. It's time for your Packers Daily Chat here at Cheesehead TV on Facebook, YouTube, and wherever the heck it is you are watching video today, this afternoon, later on this evening, wherever you're catching us. Thanks for joining us. The big news of the day, Aaron Rodgers is on a practice field, specifically the Packers practice field this afternoon. The first time since injuring that knee that he has practiced on a Thursday. Obviously, that's progression towards him being a little bit more regular on the practice field throughout the week. A good first step to getting him practicing regularly leading up to games. The other kind of development, I guess you'd say, is Kevin King back on the practice field in pads. That bodes well for Sunday. One piece of concern, however, is the addition of Randall Cobb with a hamstring injury. He was not on the injury report yesterday, popped up today with a hamstring injury. He did participate, although it was in a limited fashion, so something to keep an eye on. Jimmy Graham was a participant after sitting out yesterday with that knee injury. Mike McCarthy saying this morning that is mostly maintenance. They're just trying to be smart with it. Sounds like he should be good to go for Sunday. Hello to everyone in the comments. So nice of you guys to join us. Daniel, I'm not going to talk about that particular subject, but you're always welcome here at Cheesehead TV to talk some football. That's why we're here. Not a hamstring injury. You're kidding me, Daniel. I could not be kidding you less. That is correct. Think we will see a lot of Breeland. Steve, I doubt you see a lot of him on Sunday. I think they'll ease him into the rotation. We'll see if he even is, part of the rotation. Undoubtedly, they'll maybe have him up for special teams, but I would be very surprised if they used him in any significant way as far as, heavy usage in the nickel even. Maybe in some dime scenarios, but seeing as he just got into town, has got to get up to speed on the scheme. Who knows if he's even in football shape? There's a lot of questions to be answered there. I think it's much more likely we see him get his first significant action a week from Sunday. MVS, more snaps. Mark, it's possible. Especially if Randall Cobb is limited in any way. You would expect to see him probably get a little bit more action, but I think we'll see, a healthy dose of Devontae, Geronimo, Randall, and Jimmy Graham as their main kind of pass catchers. Now, maybe we see a little bit more from the tight ends, maybe a little bit more from MVS, but mostly I think that rotation is going to be your main kind of group that Rodgers is going to be counting on. Graham good to go for Sunday? He should be. We'll see. Something to watch for. He was on the practice field today. You never know. Maybe a setback happens, but the progression looks and points to his playing on Sunday. Like I said, Mike McCarthy saying that it's just maintenance on the knee. They're just trying to be smart. Say hi to the Brazilian fans. What's up in Brazil? How you guys doing? Thanks for checking it out. It always kind of blows my mind that the Packers, A, have such a great following in Brazil, and B, that there are so many Brazilian fans who follow us here at Cheesehead TV. Pretty great. Alan is going to start us off with a real positive, forward-thinking thought when he says, Bryce will give up a big TD this week. Ye of little faith. Can a man not make a mistake or two and improve? He had a good week one. He's had a rough following couple weeks, but can always bounce back. We'll see. St. Brown playing? Well, we'll find out on Sunday. He's been inactive throughout this season. Eric Reed to the Panthers. Eric, I've been saying it pretty much all summer, all throughout the start of camp, all throughout the start of the season. Eric Reed would be a upgrade of what they have at the safety spot, but Brian Gutekunst electing to go with what they got, and now he is a member of the Carolina Panthers. So we'll see how that progresses throughout the season. Good afternoon from Kentucky. What's up, Donnie? Thanks for joining us, man. Alan, very nice of you to stay. A lot of questions about Bryce, and I understand why. I think what Joe Witt Jr. said 2 weeks ago holds true, that once you put something on tape like that big touchdown, teams are going to keep going after you, and it's no mistake. I know there was a different corner in coverage on the shot in Washington as opposed to the corner that was on the shot against the Vikings, but the one factor that is similar is the fact that they matched up and made sure they got Bryce at deep safety when they wanted to take that shot. That's no mistake. Please put this rumor to rest or give it credence. Le'Veon Bell trade? I have said it 100,000 times. I will say it 100,000 times more if necessary. That is never going to happen. I don't know much more plain I can be. Oh, hey, Bill, thanks for checking out the stream. Should we run more with Bell at guard? Well, I think you just have to run your offense. I know the concern is that there's a bit of a downgrade there in pass protection with Justin McCray most likely out on Sunday. They're going to run Byron Bell at right guard. Should they run more? Should that be the game plan? I think you've got to look at the front in front of you and game plan accordingly. And if he can't handle that, then they've got to go to someone else, maybe Lucas Patrick. But I don't think you adjust your game plan because you've switched out personnel at right guard. Do you believe the theory that running the ball well is better to protect QB1 than shoddy offensive line? Well, I think the running game is important no matter what. And I think they've been surprisingly effective when they've run the ball so far this year after that kind of initial brick wall they ran into against Chicago. I was surprised how well they ran it against Minnesota, and I thought they were effective last week in Washington until they fell so far behind that they had to get away from it. But absolutely, I think that can be Aaron Rodgers' best friend. Get the ball, in the hands of one of those backs and let them move the chains and take some pressure off your quarterback. Now, Aaron was asked about that yesterday, and he said, I don't think of it that way. I'm here to play football. I'm here to lead this team, and we're going to do it as many different ways as possible. Whatever is the best way to get the ball in the end zone, that's what they're going to do. But he's the player. He's going to say that. He wants to have the ball in his hands. That's what makes him the competitor he is. But absolutely, I think having a significant emphasis on the running game would undoubtedly help Aaron. Why not put Lewis in to help out Bell? Bell gets owned too much. Well, if you put Lewis would be on the end, and that would be helping Bulaga. Bell is in at guard, not at tackle. But heck, you could line him up in the backfield like they used to do a lot of the time when they had, like, back in the day when, who was it? Like the Adrian Clems of the world. That's when McCarthy started putting tight ends in the backfield for that very reason. And maybe we'll see a return of that. You never know. Excited to see Gilbert this weekend with Perry and concussion protocol. Let's see what he is made of. Andy, this could be one of those classic scenarios where they have an upgrade sitting on the bench who only gets the playing time that he deserved because there was an injury in front of him. We've seen it so many times, not just throughout the league, but specifically in Green Bay throughout the years. Coaches are creatures of habit, and they have these relationships with guys where they feel they've earned certain opportunities and they are the starter, so they have to be played. Meanwhile, there's a guy who's clearly talented and can help the team getting some reps, but not as many as probably he deserves. Maybe that plays out on Sunday. Maybe Gilbert makes a big jump, makes some splash plays, and makes it impossible for them to sit him the rest of the way. Time for Philbin to call plays? Ryan, that's not going to happen. As long as Mike McCarthy's in Green Bay, he's going to be calling the plays. He made that abundantly clear after the Tom Clements experiment a couple years ago. He point blank said, as long as I'm in Green Bay, from now on, I'm calling plays. And the only time that will not be happening is when I leave. Quarless. I don't know why Jeremy wrote quarless, but I like it. I think Gilbert will get a sack. He's got a good chance to. That Bills line is, I won't say problematic. I think they're banged up and a bit of a mishmash unit. I think he'll have some opportunities, especially on obvious passing downs. What can Green Bay do to beat the Bills? Felipe, I'm going to say score more points. No. Ball control and get off to a faster start and get out of those third and longs that they have been living in these last 2 weeks. To me, that's, more than anything, come out and look polished and get a lead. But even if they don't jump out to a lead, say they do kind of stumble out of the gate again, fine. You can still win that game. But can they get out of third and long repeatedly? Rodgers mentioned that as well in his locker yesterday. They have been living in some 3rd and 11 to 3rd and 15s way too much so far this season. They've got to be more efficient and stop the penalties and stop shooting themselves in the foot. If they can just do that, they should, have a very good chance. They should put themselves in position to win this game. If the Packers lose Sunday, all hell may break loose? Yes and no. I think there's a lot of people who are kind of expecting a prolonged downward turn, at least if I'm judging my mentions and inbox correctly. But yeah, there will be a lot of angst. But don't forget, this is a team that went on a 4-game losing streak a couple years ago. And that's, certainly when all hell was breaking loose and people thought everything was over. Mike was about to get fired, etc. And then they went on a huge run and were a game within the Super Bowl. You know, you got to let the seasons play out. Yes, they could very well lose this game. It still doesn't mean that their season's over. Maybe pass on first down every now and then. David, they do. It feels frustrating sometimes when they run and don't get much on first down. And then you say, like, oh, you should pass on first down. They do plenty. Now, maybe they're not being productive on the pass. Maybe they're throwing incomplete passes, etc. There's a lot contributing to the second and longest and third and longest, and it's not just because they're running on first down. Wouldn't having a fullback be helpful given all the injuries? One more blocking body can't be that bad of a thing. Well, fullback, tight end, who cares what you label it? You just got to move guys. I don't think having Jimmy Graham in the backfield and telling him to go block plays, now that I don't think is a very good idea. But if they put Lewis back there, they put even Kendricks back there, I think you're okay. It's much more about fundamentals and moving guys and just creating seams for your running backs than it is you want a fullback back there. And look at Ripkowski. I mean, his play really fell off last year to the point where they hardly used him down the stretch. He never really materialized into that big blocking, bruising, move him out of the way kind of back that you thought he might be when he was first drafted. I think Joe Carriage could be that guy. He's on the practice squad. Maybe they call him up eventually, but right now I think they like the multiplicity they have with the tight end position, and they're willing to maybe sacrifice a little heft at the fullback spot. Does the offensive coordinator understand that if we run the ball more, it will help protect Rodgers, plus it will the wide receiver get open easier? Jason, yes. The offensive coordinator, Joe Philbin, and the play caller, Mike McCarthy, of course they understand that. Now, some of that is dictated to by game situations, and some of it is Rodgers at the line of scrimmage. There are lots of things. These guys have access to more data than you and I will ever comprehend when it comes to putting the game plan together, how they're trying to attack the defense, and what the play calls are, and when they choose to emphasize the run, etc. I get it. Like I said before, I know it's frustrating when you watch them throw on first down and throw incomplete, or run the ball effectively and then get away from it. But there are reasonings behind everything they're doing that obviously they keep locked up, but there's reams of information that they work with all week long to design how they're attacking defenses. And I have a hard time getting too down on the play caller or the play design. There are frustrations, certainly, 100%. I get that. But, it's funny. In this chat alone, we've had, they've got to run the ball more on first down. Well, they've got to run to protect Rodgers. Well, they got to throw the ball on first down, etc. There's all these opinions about how they should do it. And, we're sitting at home watching it on television or even from the stands, and, we're having an emotional reaction to it, whereas these guys, these professionals, sit there all week with all the data and all the tape breakdowns and all the injury information from their team, all the GPS data, etc. They're putting all of that into a pot, and they're coming up with a game plan for it. There's so much at play that we can't know. We'd like to know. I'd love to know. If they would open up the computers, so to speak, I would love to dive in there and see why they're making certain decisions because they're expecting this kind of coverage on 2nd and 8 or what have you. But it's one of those things that I get the frustration, but you got to remember they are working from a place where they have so much more information than you and I. How about the NFL doubling down today on the new rules? Ryan went there. Ryan knew how to push my button. Just for show and behind the scenes, they tell the refs to RELAX. Ryan, we'll find out. I mean, everybody's talking about it, right? So mission accomplished for the NFL that everyone is talking about these absurd roughing the passer rules and emphasis, etc. Now, as you suggest, maybe behind the scenes they are telling the the referees to, okay, now we've said this publicly, but here, let's stop calling some of these silly roughing the passer. That's completely possible. I don't think that's happening. I'll be very surprised if that happens. I think we're going to continue to see plays that look like football deemed illegal. And I think there won't be any kind of true significant change until the offseason, which is unfortunate. Money line on a Clay personal foul plus 170. Put all your money, put your life savings on that one. Why do the Packers always run the play clock down to the wire? Donald, I've asked Mike this and I've asked Aaron this in a number of different occasions, and I think they've kind of gotten sick of me asking about it. I know Mike has, but Aaron likes to get as much information as he can. Now, some of it is getting the play call in. There are occasions where Mike is not lax there, but it takes him a little bit, the communication from upstairs. What did you see on that? Blah, blah, blah. What coverage are they going to run here, etc. And then getting the call into Aaron. But then Aaron gets to the line most of the time, not always, but most of the time, he's got plenty of time. He sees what the defense is, presenting them, and he will make his adjustments. And then, of course, you have the hard count, the cadence, tries to make guys jump a couple times. Maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. More often than not, it doesn't now because teams know he's doing this. He does it all the time. But he wants, in his words, to get every single piece of information he can before the ball is snapped. And I know it's frustrating. Again, I get it. You watch there and you're like, every play going down to 2-1 and you get the ball. Aaron likes it that way. He wants to get the defense as set as possible and to get every scrap of information he can before the ball is in his hands and he's deciding what to do with it. Hey, the guy's won league MVP 2 times. I can't begrudge him that. How do we stack up against Buffalo? William, the big worry part is up front when the Packers are on offense. That defensive front for Buffalo is no joke. And that's not to say everything else is a piece of cake, but that is the biggest worry, especially with a reserve guard starting on the right side there. I don't worry so much about Jerry Hughes, who is kind of their leading rusher. He had a big strip sack fumble last week in Minnesota. I don't worry about him too much simply because I think Bakhtiari will be able to lock him down at home. But their entire front is physical. They get after, they get upfield. They're not a 2-gapping team. They're not a team that likes to read and react in the way some teams do. They just get upfield. And they could cause some problems. They're big, they're physical. The Packers are not a mauling group. They're not a group that's going to run you over. They're much more technicians and about that spread, especially in the running game. So I don't know. To me, that is the big worry. I think the Packers should win this game, but if that aspect of the game gets away from them, it could be trouble. Will we re-sign Clinton-Dix? Justin, I doubt it. I mean, obviously there's a bunch left to play out yet throughout the season. It's only week 3. But if his play continues as it has the first 3 weeks, I would be very surprised. Donnie. Nobody asks or cares about how your day is going. So how have you been today, Donnie? It's been a day. Thank you for asking. Do you think our defense's problem is less about scheme and more about current personnel? I think the scheme is sound. I think Mike Pettine has shown in many different stops along his career in the league that, yeah, his scheme works and he knows what he's doing as a defensive coordinator, as a defensive play caller. He's got some personnel things he's got to work around. The lack of depth outside at the linebacker spot. Safety spot is obviously suspect. He's got really young corners that are going to take their lumps. And then he's had to play with 6, even 7 defensive backs at times because they don't have any inside linebackers. Or they haven't. They finally got Burks back last week. Maybe we'll see a little bit more of him. That stuff will start to kind of gel as the year goes on. I think you'll see defensive improvement throughout the season. But he's juggling a lot of balls there. And I think it was probably... you could see the shortcomings in personnel under Capers, but you saw multiple kind of glaring issues that popped up year after year after year. He had to be shown the door. Now, with Pettine, we've seen, obviously, problems on the back end. A lot of things look similar to where we're just coming from, but I do think a lot of that is personnel-driven. Like I said, as the year goes on, I think you'll see Pettine experiment more as far as up front with some of his blitz packages. And I think you'll see the defense coalesce and become more of a cohesive unit as we get into October and November. If we're not going to keep why not pick up Earl Thomas, Corey? Because then you'd have to pay him. They were going to pay Khalil Mack. They were happy to do that because he was a premier pass rusher and you can absolutely affect the game. Now, Earl Thomas is a fantastic player, but he is a safety. And the Packers have shown multiple times throughout the modern era that they do not value safeties nearly as much as pass rushers, and for good reason. That's the way of the league. A safety, no matter how good he is, they're not as valuable to you as a guy who can just absolutely wreck the quarterback down in and down out. It's just the way it is. So I don't see them giving up draft capital and going to get Earl Thomas and having to sign him to a monster deal, which is the whole reason he was holding out in Seattle. The only way they would trade him is if they could agree to a contract, because that's the only way he would agree to it. Do you think Cobb will want more than his contract currently constructed? I'm not quite sure what you're asking there, Eric. He's in the last year of his deal. I think he's going to want to ball out, especially after last year's kind of debacle of a game. He wants to prove that he's very much still capable and a big-time weapon for Aaron Rodgers. I don't think he's going to break the bank wherever he ends up, whether it's extended in Green Bay or as a free agent someplace else. But I do think he's going to get a decent contract at the end of this year, maybe in this next free agency period. It's just a question of, will it be in Green Bay or will it be somewhere else? Is Bryce the answer? Jason, it depends what the question is. I think the years of drafting in the back of the league is starting to catch up. You're drafting at the bottom of the first round, it definitely catches up with you. I mean, you're not, the hit rate there at the bottom, the 20 through 29, whatever, that it's not great. And that's true throughout the league. The problem is the Packers have just constantly been there. Some teams, get to the playoffs and then they pick in the 20s, but then they're bad for a stretch, and then so now they're up the top 15 and they get a couple guys, and then there's ebbs and flows. The Packers have been so successful so many years in a row that they've constantly been picking at the bottom of the first round, that the talent pool you're picking from there is a lot less reliable. It's going to be a lot more hit and miss than it would be if you were picking the top of the round. That's to be expected. But that said, I don't think, I can't find a team. You look at maybe the Pittsburgh Steelers are the one team that have had similar success and been picking kind of in the same area, who have done probably a little bit better than the Packers in that regard. But you look at New England's track record; they've obviously been drafting in a similar spot throughout the last decade or so, and I'd say their hit and miss rate is probably similar to the Packers. It's just they've won championships, so no one talks about it. Why don't we sign Jaron Elliott? Clearly, they think the guys they have are better. You and I may disagree. Brian Gutekunst is the man, though, and it's his call. All right, everybody, I'm going to have to jump. Thank you so much for all the questions. I'm sorry if I couldn't get to yours. They do fly by, but I can't believe there's 200 people here just chatting Packers football on a Thursday afternoon. Where else would you rather be? Thanks so much, everyone. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit subscribe. If you're watching on Facebook, if you missed the first part, the replay will be up later as soon as we press stop. So thanks a lot, everyone. I'll be back tomorrow. In the meantime, have a great night.